Hasina, Prime Minister of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, is paying a state visit to India from September the 5th to 8th September this year. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina last visited New Delhi in October 2019. India's relationship with Bangladesh, perhaps our closest neighbor, is very wide-ranging and, as befits two close neighbors, has entered a period of what has been referred to as the Sonali Adhyay or golden chapter, with constant bilateral engagement, including at the highest levels. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji also visited Bangladesh in the midst of the pandemic in March 2021 to celebrate 50 years of the Bangladesh-India diplomatic relationship and to pay homage to Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of that nation, whose birth centenary coincided with the golden jubilee of its freedom. India, in fact, marked that occasion on January 26th last year when, for the first time, 122-member Tri-Services contingent of the Bangladesh Armed Forces led the Indian Republic Day Parade. Ambassador Veena Sikri, who has herself served as India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh, joins us to provide an overview of the relationship and why Sheikh Hasina's India visit is important. In an interview to the Indian media, Sheikh Hasina has said that her priority during this visit is to ensure the development of the relationship for the benefit of the people of our countries. What are the specific areas that are being currently looked at?
This is indeed a very important visit that Sheikh Hasina is making, a state visit to India. Of course, she is visiting after 3 years, but as you have pointed out, in these 3 years, a lot has happened between India and Bangladesh, despite the fact of COVID. The most important, of course, was the visit in 2021, the Golden Jubilee of the Liberation War and the birth centenary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, and of course, the Golden Jubilee of the diplomatic relations between India and Bangladesh. It is very significant that 50 years after 1971, in 2021, India and Bangladesh were shoulder to shoulder observing the Golden Jubilee of these very, very significant events. It was a message that was taken loud and clear by the people of India, by the people of Bangladesh, and by people all over the world. It is remarkable that the relationship between India and Bangladesh has consistently developed over the last 7 to 8 years through a very dynamic relationship full of trust between the leadership of India and Bangladesh, and also through a visionary approach on how the relationship should be developed. Number one, for the mutual benefit of both countries. Number two, in areas which are of mutual interest to both countries. And three, with a focus on the development, prosperity and stability of both countries. These broad parameters are very significant because all the areas that have been agreed upon, that have been implemented in the last many years, have this focus of work. So India has given very large amount of credit lines to Bangladesh, totaling huge number of about $8 billion, which is the largest ever given to any bilateral country. But the choice of what the credit lines will be used for is up to Bangladesh and is discussed between India and Bangladesh. So you have a lot of, for example, railway projects which come under these credit lines, because this is of great interest to Bangladesh to modernize and upgrade their railway system. And you also have a lot of connectivity projects that have come up between India and Bangladesh, which also are of direct benefit. Sometimes looks at connectivity in issues as being, it's written about, maybe this is only benefiting India, but not at all. This is a mutual benefit to both countries. So let me give you a very significant example that happened even during COVID, where the bridge over the River Feni was completed and inaugurated virtually by the Prime Ministers of India and Bangladesh. Now, the bridge over the River Feni, it's a fairly small river, it's a fairly small bridge, about just 2 kilometers long, but it connects the Indian state of Tripura and the entire northeast to a point in Bangladesh which is just 75 kilometers from Chittagong port. Now, it's remarkable that otherwise all these decades, for the northeastern states to reach a port, they had to come all around to Kolkata port, and then, took many days, took a lot of consumption of truck fuel, of logistics and so on. But now, through the bridge over the River Feni, this is a concrete, specific example, very recent, of projects which are directly beneficial to both countries.
In the interview that Sheikh Hasina has given today, she's specifically mentioned connectivity and the fact that she's offered the use of Chittagong and Mongla ports to India and the neighboring countries of Bhutan and Nepal,
Yes.
specifically, and how the first container left from India and reached Chittagong, cutting down the time of.
Yes. Within Bangladesh, the entire logistics movement is controlled by Bangladesh companies. You're absolutely right that the use of Chittagong and Mongla ports is now fully available to India, and even a standard operating procedure is also, I think it's been finalized now. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has offered the use of Chittagong Airport, of Dhaka Airport and Sylhet airports to the people of the Northeast, that they can come and fly abroad wherever they want to travel through these very important airports. And this is very convenient and very important for the people living in the Northeast, the people living in areas where, access to international flights may not be so easy. So this is where the mutual benefit comes in, because obviously there are Bangladesh Airlines, there are Bangladesh logistics facilities, Bangladesh internal shipping, waterways and so on. It's really a win-win situation for both countries. In this visit, as Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina visits, I think we're looking at the next stage. We're looking at the stage where we review what has happened and we look ahead to see what are the new mutually beneficial projects that can be looked at. And certainly trade is one of the most important in this area, and we are reading more and more about the possibility of a CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between India and Bangladesh. And Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has spoken about this also, said that this is under discussion, and there has been a recent report prepared jointly by an Indian think tank and a Bangladesh think tank on the possible outcomes of such a CEPA for both countries. And the conclusion very firmly is that this CEPA would be of great particular benefit to Bangladesh, and could increase their GDP growth by almost 2%. This is what the two governments will certainly be looking at, and they'll also be looking at other issues which have come up now in recent weeks with the changed geopolitical global situation, especially as an fallout of the events in Ukraine and Russia. Energy cooperation, that is now very, very important for both India and Bangladesh, and they're looking at perhaps India and Bangladesh cooperating so that Bangladesh can also receive some fuel supplies from Russia and so on. So there are two areas of cooperation that they will be discussing, and I'm sure there'll be very important agreements on them as well.
The other area where the cooperation is expanding exponentially is also the defense cooperation and the security cooperation between the two countries. Do you agree? I mean, the aspects of that have, part of the whole line of credit has also been extended to offer defense hardware for India for Bangladesh.
Yes, that's right. $500 million has been reserved among the credit lines for this purpose. I'm sure this will also be discussed very seriously during the visit of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And of course, we know that all this while Bangladesh has been primarily dependent on China for their equipment, and China is very reluctant to see any change in this situation. But I think perhaps Bangladesh is looking at it with fresh, open mind, and I'm sure it will be discussed, and there should be some outcome on this as well. See, the security cooperation has always been among the highest priority issues between India and Bangladesh, and I think that ever since Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina won her second round as Prime Minister in 2009, and now of course it's her fourth term as Prime Minister, she has always followed a very positive approach, and she has said that there is nobody in Bangladesh who wants Indian insurgent groups on Bangladeshi soil, and they're fully willing to cooperate with the government of India on security matters. There is also, in addition to this presence of this issue concerning insurgent groups, there is also the very important issue in the security sector of border management between Bangladesh and India. We have a very long land border, and much of it is fenced, but there is the constant all kinds of illegal activity happening or threatening to happen along this border, which includes illegal smuggling of drugs, illegal smuggling of gold, human trafficking, even cattle smuggling, which has gone down now, but which at one time was a very, very high-risk activity, still indulged in by many people. So this creates a situation at the border which is very difficult, and the two border security forces, the BSF of India and the BGB Border Guards Bangladesh, they have worked out a very good coordinated border management procedure, a standard operating where they, if any incident happens, they immediately coordinate with each other and try to get to the bottom of it and, do not let it escalate beyond any minor issue. And this is very important because I know that, from the Bangladesh media, you can see that anything that happens at the border gets very high priority in the Bangladesh media, and they are very disturbed, especially people lose their lives, and we have to constantly explain the incidents which happen at night. Nobody knows even the nationality of the person of who is affected or who is involved. Sometimes they're Bangladeshi, sometimes they're Indian, sometimes they may be even third countries for all you know. So it's a very difficult situation. You need a lot of trust and cooperation between the two sides to make sure that all these incidents are managed very well and illegal activity is prevented to the maximum extent possible. And, newer and newer technologies, cyber cooperation and so on come up to make sure that we are always one step ahead of those who want to use the border for illegal activity.
Talking of illegal activities, another thing that the Bangladesh Prime Minister mentioned in her interview was that the Rohingya issue, the fact that Bangladesh has taken in some 1.2 million Rohingya refugees, is now translating itself into a law and order situation also. And this is something she said that she would request India's assistance on, and maybe even hoping to jointly take it up perhaps with the United Nations. Is that a possibility, do you think?
This matter is already at the International Criminal Court, I think, because one of the countries of the OIC, Gambia, has taken it up there. There's already been an interim verdict, and Myanmar has been squarely blamed, but they have not accepted the verdict. The situation regarding the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh has become very complex because even as we speak, there is a very strong hostile situation prevailing in Myanmar right now. There are active hostilities going on between the Myanmar army forces and the Arakan army, which is based in the state of Rakhine. And these hostilities are taking place very near the Myanmar-Bangladesh border. You have a situation where there's a danger, in fact, of even more refugees coming over. And Bangladesh has determined they will not accept any more refugees. So, there's great potential that if people try to come over and there's some attempt to stop them, there could be any kind of difficult situation at the border. Bangladesh and Myanmar did conclude in the very early days after the refugees came over in 2017, they did conclude an MOU on sending back, but somehow that could never be implemented. MOU is still there, and I think that there needs to be further dialogue to see how it can be implemented. But somehow even the people living in the camps did not want to implement it. So it's a very complex situation there. You're right that the situation within Bangladesh with the refugees is becoming more and more difficult. Very difficult to control their activities, to control illegal activities. At one time, education for the children had been started. Now that's been stopped.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thank you.